Hello, everyone. Welcome to your virtual home base days at Dunrovin and the awesome Osprey Project Classroom. This is your lead researcher, Michael Academia. Please participate in today's live broadcast by typing in your comments and questions at the awesome Osprey Project Classroom chat. And if you're on the website and you're having difficulty in finding that location, folks there will lead you to the right spot. We have a very special guest today. He is a world-renowned photographer and a public figure. He has about 16,000 followers on Instagram and about 56,000 subscribers on YouTube. This guy is the real deal. And his name is Mark Smith, but I call him Master Mark. And when you do research about his photos, his camera and his videos, you'll understand why. I'm continually awe-inspired and just blown away by his work. Please welcome Mark Smith. Thank you so much for being here, Mark. It's an honor.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for the really kind words. That was very nice of you. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's the truth.
Thank you.
Before we share your video, I just have a couple of questions. When did you start photography and how long have you been doing this?
Oh, it's a pretty good story. I've been doing photography my entire life. So, yeah. So there was a period, a big period of time when I didn't do photography, of course, but I started when I was really young. My dad would take my brother and I off into the woods camping, and he had a good sailboat. And he spent a lot of time in the Keys, out in the water and stuff. So he kind of developed this love of nature in me, and he would just basically hand me his Minolta camera and a zoom lens and like 2 or 3 rolls of film and say, go. And then the next weekend he would come back and he'd have all of that developed. And, we would go through all of it, and then he would load me up again. And I didn't realize until I got older why he worked overtime, because that was expensive for him to load me up with all that film and get it all processed and all that good stuff. So it kind of evolved from there. I went through a period of time, like when I was a teenager, wherein I've moved more of like my artistic or my creativity to music. And I did music for a little while, and then was always doing photography in the background. And then my wife came to me at one point and said, hey, let's sell everything we own and get an RV and travel. So we did this crazy road trip with the entire family, cooped up in a tiny little RV. And when we got to Colorado, in the San Juan Mountains, that's when photography really took hold again. And then it was nice actually to come back to Florida after being there for a little while with a little more photography knowledge, and then all of my lifelong experiences with like all of the birds and the wildlife here in Florida. Suddenly, like, I don't know, it was kind of almost like a new awakening, so to speak. So
that's a beautiful story. I'm so glad that your wife took you on that trip. That's really special, and it really just started a beautiful journey.
Oh, it did. It most certainly did. She was really good at pushing me out of my comfort zone. So she was a good muse for sure.
You want to go ahead and share that video for us?
Yeah, sure. We'll go ahead and start the video.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So give me a second to get it all together. I don't know if it's sharing the screen or not. Is it?
I don't see the share screen. There should be that green button.
Yeah, I'm hitting on that green button, and it's being unresponsive on my end. Technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me try changing apps and see if it'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm hold on. There we go.
There we go. All right.
User error. My fault. I was hitting the wrong button. All right.
That's okay. You just learn how to do this, so this is
that's right.
Exactly. Give yourself credit.
Yay. All right.
Yay.
Everybody enjoy.
Somewhere out there hovering silently in the skies is an ultra efficient predator, a bird possessing an incredible skill set that consists of speed, agility, focus, and an unbridled determination for survival. This bird is the osprey. At first glance, the osprey appears to be an ordinary bird of prey decorated with alternating patches of white and brown. But this is no ordinary bird by any means. This bird is an absolute master at what it does, circling the sky and waiting for that precise moment to cock its wings back and send its entire body into a precision-controlled, high-speed free fall that ends with the bird plunging talon first into an underwater world. If the bird's calculated trajectory was correct, it emerges from the water victorious, and an unsuspecting fish never even saw it coming. This seemingly impossible task is part of this amazing bird's everyday routine, a highly refined, complex method of survival that ends with a nice fish dinner. This is the world of the osprey. Somewhere in Florida, among a gnarly tangle of cypress knees, a large colony of osprey are busy constructing huge nests made from perfectly intertwined tree branches and delicate Spanish moss. It is here that a new generation of life begins. The female osprey sits proudly on her throne, her piercing gaze making sure no other creature comes close. Here she will sit and tend to the eggs, nest, and chicks once they are born. The male osprey has a tireless job that will have him traveling great distances to bring food back to the female and the chicks. He often returns with only pieces of fish, having stopped along the way to eat for sustenance. His journey and many attempts at collecting fish take a toll on his body and require massive amounts of energy. If he can find food closer by, then he often returns with an entire fish, bringing it to the nest to share with his family. But there's no rest for this bird, and once again, he's off in search of food. 25 miles to the east, at a small wastewater treatment plant, a large flock of great egret stand waiting for a morning feed. A few feet away, a much larger group of wood storks busily searches for food by walking through the water with their beaks open. If a fish is unlucky enough to swim between the stork's beak, it becomes the stork's next meal. But storks don't always eat their food immediately. Sometimes they sit proudly displaying their recent catch. Circling high above this morning gathering of birds is a pair of male osprey, and it isn't long until they start doing what they do best, catching fish. Our first osprey lowers its talons in anticipation of a catch, and just moments before impact, it pushes its talons forward and opens them wide. The bird crashes into the surface, sending a huge plume of water into the air. As the water falls, the osprey's face can be seen peering through, and in its talons, a huge tilapia. While all of this was happening, our other osprey has managed to catch as well. It flies by, giving us an up-close and personal look at its prize, a small largemouth bass. And it's here that we get our first real good look at this bird's sickle-shaped, razor-sharp talons, an indication of this bird's ancient ancestors, the dinosaurs. This small fish was barely a snack, and it isn't long until our osprey pulls something much larger from the pond. This time, it's a huge tilapia. Osprey will always try to carry the fish head first so that it's more aerodynamic, and this one is doing just that. These birds have hungry mouths to feed, and sometimes one fish just isn't enough. Another osprey dives in, and this one pulls 2 fish from the water. It's holding 1 fish in each set of talons. A small group of hooded mergansers nods in approval as the osprey ascends higher and vanishes with its dual catch. 40 miles to the north, at another wastewater treatment plant, a little green heron sits motionless as a large, hungry alligator silently patrols the reeds. A purple gallinule and a glossy ibis stand in the cattails that line the edge of a fish-filled pond. The glossy ibis turns its attention to the sky above as an osprey appears. The osprey pauses and hovers in the air as it takes notice of a fish in the water below. It lines up its target and falls out of the sky. The osprey hits the water but struggles at the surface. Gripped tightly in its left talon, a massive fish. The osprey manages to pull itself out of the water, but the fish has other plans. It acts like a living anchor and pulls the osprey back down. The osprey has no choice but to let go of the fish. It ascends off the surface of the water, out of breath and tired, but this bird isn't about to give up. The osprey hits the water again, and this time it pulls an easier to manage fish from the pond, but its catch dangerously sways back and forth like a clock's pendulum. The osprey, not willing to lose its catch, places its other set of talons over the fish's head and tightens its grip. As it flies by, we get a good idea of what unbridled determination actually looks like. The osprey lands on a nearby palm tree that has lost its top. This is the perfect place to sit and eat its fish, but something is making the osprey nervous. A much larger bird has appeared in the sky above, a bald eagle. The osprey, with its now half-eaten fish, shoots a sinister gaze in the eagle's direction. Back down on the water level, an alligator soaks up some much-needed warmth from the sun, and once again, another osprey appears in the sky. This osprey doesn't fool around. It wrangles a huge fish from the water and carries it facing forward with both talons. As it flies by, we get a much better look at its perfect execution. But this osprey nervously looks towards the sky above. A little further out over another pond, and we see what has made these two ospreys so nervous. A young eagle has an osprey in its sights. The inexperienced eagle would rather steal from the osprey than catch its own food. The young eagle desperately reaches for the osprey's fish, but the osprey is faster, and it outmaneuvers its pursuer. All of these aerial acrobatics have caught the attention of the adult eagle, who comes in from out of nowhere. The osprey, eager to live another day, drops its hard-earned catch, and the adult eagle swoops in for the steal. Meanwhile, our other osprey nervously eats its fish as quickly as possible. 60 miles to the southeast, the mighty Atlantic Ocean meets the land, and an osprey cruises the skies above. Down below, millions of tiny fish navigate the waters. Behind those tiny fish are several species of large fish, and watching all of this unfold from above, several very hungry osprey. This saltwater environment presents new challenges and unseen perils for the osprey, but that unbridled determination pushes our first bird talon first into an oncoming crashing wave. A few feet away, several large fish can be seen under the surface of the ocean. A few feet from that, and a large shark rips through the water, while our osprey sits on the surface waiting for the wave to crest. It then takes to the air, clutching a small mullet in its talons. A few feet away, and another osprey emerges with a fish, but this time the fish has fought back. As the osprey's talons sunk their way into this fish's back, the fish took a retaliating bite out of the osprey's leg. The osprey, unfazed by the bite, takes this lizard fish for a nice aerial view of its prior home before disappearing to eat its hearty catch. A little further out, and another osprey emerges from the water clutching something different. This bird shoots a questioning glance at its talons and continues to fly. A closer look reveals this osprey's catch to be a discarded ballyhoo teaser rig, a long plastic hookless fishing lure complete with lifelike printed fish. An even closer look shows this osprey's talons wrapped tightly around what it thinks is a tasty meal. This bird will be sorely disappointed when it gets back to its perch. The action is fast and furious as yet another osprey comes in, readying its talons for the catch. A split second before entry, the bird thrusts its legs forward and opens its talons wide. Those razor-sharp talons sink deep into the fish's back, and the bird pulls a catfish from the water. Not to be outdone by its predecessor, this osprey dives in hopes of a big score, but the osprey looks at its tiny catch in disappointment. As the bird flies closer, its tiny catch turns out to be much more. This bird has managed to snatch 2 fish from the water, and it now proudly displays both fish, clutching one in its right set of talons and the other in its left. And from out of nowhere, yet another osprey appears in the sky, carrying a fish that is almost as large as the bird itself. The bird quickly vanishes, but more take its place in the sky above as the feeding frenzy continues. Another bird comes falling out of the sky, readying its talons for the catch before crashing into the water. It sits on the surface of the water with something struggling in its talons below. The bird's calculated descent is well rewarded with a large leather jacket fish, but there's one more bird in the sky. It spots something and hovers in place, waiting for that precise moment to deliver its fatal blow, and unbeknownst to a world of fish, death is coming from above, and it wields not one razor-sharp scythe, but 8. This chilling head-on view shows us exactly how focused this bird is. From that determined look in its eyes to its almost perfect symmetrical body shape, this bird has one thing on its mind: catching a fish. The osprey comes out of the water, and it appears as if the osprey is surfing on the back of its catch, a highly prized pompano, but the fish isn't leaving its home without a fight. It aims its head down and somehow pulls the bird back into the water with a huge splash. Now the osprey sits in shark-infested water with a large injured fish dangling from its talons like fresh chum. It's a sink or fly moment for this bird. The osprey takes one last look at its surroundings, and with a single beat of its wings, it does the seemingly impossible task of lifting not only its entire body from the water, but also the huge pompano. With each beat of its wings, it drags the fish across the surface of the water like a skipping stone. Finally airborne, the bird glances back under its left wing, showing us once more the look of unbridled determination. I think it's pretty easy to...
All right.
Wow, Mark. Yeah, see, we're having lots of comments on the chat, and people get it now. Now you know why I call you Master Mark. That's just a masterpiece. And
oh, thank you.
Everyone's wow. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
In so many beautiful photos. In fact, we were talking earlier, and it looks like Mark is planning to author a book about osprey photographs. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah. It will kind of go through the whole process of kind of a little bit of that video, and then of course all of my favorite books, favorite images as well. There'll be some other stuff in there as well. Their ability to get multiple fish. I have a lot of good images of that. And then one of my favorite things is watching them when they actually come out of the water and they do the shake, and they shake off all the water weight in the right light. It's like little diamonds everywhere going behind them. So those images are always really nice too. So a little bit of everything.
Oh, and those positions that they do when they shake off can be really interesting too. Like their neck is all the way turned around.
Yeah. The nictitating membranes are down. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, lots of respect. We have lots of really great comments on the chat right now for you, Mark.
Thank you.
They see why now.
Very good.
We do have a question. Was your dad a photographer?
No, not interestingly enough.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but I guess he saw it in me, and and I don't know, just pushed me in that direction.
So we have another question, someone who does photography, and she was asking about the difference between, digital and film. So you've practiced with the film era. Do you think that the digital era is like the best invention since sliced bread?
Yeah, for photography. and then like the next level that we've stepped into with the mirrorless cameras is quite an evolution from the DSLR. And for anybody that hasn't stepped into the mirrorless world yet, you don't really, it's a weird thing. You don't know what you're missing until you use mirrorless for a little while, and then you go back and pick up your DSLR. It feels like you've gone back in time like 10 years or something, and there's quite a significant gap there in the two technologies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll definitely learn more when we have, like a little classroom with you if you go to one of your workshops, which I'll talk about later.
Yeah,
but
sure.
we have a comment from Suzanne Miller, who is the owner of Dunrovin Ranch, and she wanted me to let you know that if you ever want to come out to the West, to Montana, to photograph, she would definitely love to host and let you stay at the ranch.
Oh, wow, that would be amazing.
Yeah, she's truly impressed with your work.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll take you up on that. I'll hold you to that offer.
Oh,
yeah,
question.
thank you.
Have you ever seen a shark go after an osprey?
No, they're often in the same, like right in the same vicinity. And I think if that were to happen, it would just be a matter of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because the sharks are targeting typically bigger fish, but there are times when the sharks are just ripping through with their mouths wide open, grabbing whatever they can. So if the osprey was there, yeah. The biggest confrontation that I see, believe it or not, is the brown pelicans. The osprey,
Really? Brown.
yeah, it's really interesting. I've gotten some really good interactions of that. So the brown pelicans, if they're not having a good day and they're not catching fish, they will wait and they'll sit on the water and just float and let the osprey come down. And as soon as the osprey hits the water, the brown pelicans are on top of them and they try to steal the fish. And sometimes it gets pushed way off into the sky, and you can get these amazing images of the pelican trying to snatch the osprey's fish right out of their talons. It's really interesting stuff.
Oh, that is interesting. And also bald eagles will wait around for ospreys to catch their fish, and they will try to chase them and take it away from them.
Yeah, I see that a lot too.
But more so brown pelicans?
Yeah, well, in this area, more so the brown pelicans they're more the dominant ones. And interesting enough, like in the beginning of the video where I showed the nesting colony, it's a large lake in Florida, and I've been told that the osprey have been there as long as has been historically recorded, even back to time of the Florida Indians and stuff that were there.
Wow.
And I use a local boat captain that lives on the lake, and he's lived there for a long time. And I asked him about the eagle interaction on the lake, because there's anywhere from 300 to 400 nests in maybe like a mile stretch. So they're just osprey everywhere. And he said the only time he has ever seen an eagle come into that colony, about a dozen osprey attacked the eagle and it left immediately. And he said that's the only time he's ever seen one there. So
wow. See,
yeah, it's pretty interesting.
That's rare to see. Like if ospreys develop more like a colony mentality and will protect the colony.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
something, yeah, very unique. And I would love to study that. And that would, as a species, that would help, promote. And
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen that one time myself too, where this past season, right when we were getting into nesting season, the females get really aggressive and protective of certain fishing areas. And a bald eagle came into the area, and she let us know, or let me know way ahead of time. She saw it coming, and I could tell from her vocalizations that she was irritated and that there was a predator coming. So I just kind of watched off in the distance, and this eagle came in, but the eagle didn't want anything to do with this spot. The eagle had seen something way out at sea, but as it came by and passed this dominant female in the area, she attacked it and hit it pretty hard in the air. And
wow.
Yeah, and that really surprised me, because the osprey is a lot smaller than the eagle. But I think it was right around the start of nesting season, and she was feeling protective of her little spot, so she didn't want the eagle anywhere there. So.
That's impressive, just acting totally fierce to attack a bald eagle.
Yeah, I was very, very surprised. And I had a workshop of about 3 or 4 people that day, and they were all very happy to see that interaction. So
oh, I was about to ask you, did they take photos of that?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Was this during the Florida diving and feeding osprey photography workshop that you have?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, this is the workshop that I really want to go to, and what I was talking about earlier. And this is where you get hands-on experience, personal experience with Mark, and you're on the field learning from him. Mark, run a day through us. Like what would we be doing if we took this workshop with you?
Sure. Typically we would meet somewhere before sunrise. And I would have already been in the area and have a really good knowledge of where the birds are activity-wise, because they go from place to place. There's 3 or 4 places. There's one place that's usually really, really good. And then at that one location, they might be in 3 or 4 different like little locations within that location. So I would have known ahead of time where they mostly were congregating. So we would meet before sunrise. We would get to the area at sunrise, and then we would just let the osprey kind of dictate where we went. There's a lot of things that put the osprey in certain places. And believe it or not, that's all part of photography. You really have to know your subject and understand them very well if you want to be able to get good pictures of them. So understanding osprey behavior, what influences them to feed, in what direction, the wind, the sun, all that is a big part of the entire experience. And most people, they have a good understanding of their camera, but they don't have a good understanding of the behavior. So my knowledge on both of those parts helps guide them into understanding when they're going to do what they're going to do. And then because I've done this for so long, I can easily spot, like say the sky was filled with maybe 30 or 40 different birds, pelicans. Sometimes we get gannets, a lot of different species of gulls. I can always know which one is the osprey just from the wing pattern and the wing beat. So I can always kind of point them out to where they are. And I typically know when they're going to do what they're going to do just from their behavior much faster than other people because I've watched them so long. So we would be there waiting for the osprey to do what they are doing. And I'd basically be right at your shoulder, kind of telling you to be ready. You know, all your camera settings I'd have set up according to the light. And then I'd be just kind of telling you about the behavior as it unfolds and helping you get those really good pictures.
Yeah, that sounds really awesome. So this season starts, you're starting this program on August 15th and it runs through February 25th, but it sells out quickly, right?
Yeah, it does. And it's a really big window of opportunity. And being that it is wildlife, there are days when, you know, in my experience, when it's slow, there might be only 3 birds. But for some people, seeing one osprey is quite special. Then there are other days when there's been as much as 30, and they form a very interesting queue according to the current below them and the wind, and they get in this queue, and those 30 birds just kind of go back and forth, falling all out of the sky. And in those moments, it is not unusual to run out of batteries or fill your memory cards in your cameras because the action is just intense nonstop. And most people those days, they go home and tell a lot of people, and I have to tell them, just make sure you tell everybody this is like an unusual experience. It's not always 30 ospreys. Sometimes the number is a little bit smaller, but when that does happen, it's really special.
So most people will do like 1 day or 2 days with you? Yeah.
Some people, depending on where they come from, people come from all over the world. Some people will do a week. Some people will do 5 days. So I typically do 1, 2, or 3 days. And then if they want more, I'll work with them on doing more than 3 days. I would say 3 days would probably be the best to get the most action, of course. But if you came and the first day was like in the middle of one of those frenzies, then you'd probably get everything that you needed just in 1 day. And the interesting thing about that too is when I bring people and it's in the middle of one of these heavy frenzies, they get nervous and excited. And like the first day, they're overwhelmed by the amount of activity that's happening. And being overwhelmed is kind of challenging with photography because you got to be really clear-headed. So the second day they come back and they know what to expect. They're a little bit more confident, and then they start to get much better images on the second day. Like the first day is like a kid on Christmas morning. Oh wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, that would be me. I'd be clicking everywhere.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And the second day is everyone's a little bit more grounded. And on busy days too, my son will come help. He's a great assistant. He understands the behavior just like I do. So if I'm with a group of 2 people, he's with another group of 2 people. We might be further apart to where we can't all hear each other, but they're all getting instruction on the birds, just like as if it was me. So it's pretty cool.
Speaking about kids, obviously your children have rubbed off onto your children. Your son helps you on the field, with your camera work, your video work, but your daughter too is an artist and you're wearing one of her shirts.
Yeah, she did all of this on her own. She's really talented at art. I envy her abilities for what she does. And I asked her if she could make me an Osprey night sky off of the Starry Night Sky picture. And a few days later, this is it. And I love it.
I love it too. I love it. It's beautiful. And I'm going to buy that t-shirt for my top students, those who've been collecting data as awards for all of the hard work that you've been doing.
Yeah,
but you have more merchandise. You have more merchandise on your website, right? You sell shirts and
shirts, some how-to books on specific camera models, and that's constantly expanding as new camera models come out or as I get my hands on new camera models. So yeah, definitely. I sell prints too of all my Osprey pictures. The I would say
Ah,
the problem with that is you'd have to wade through like 1,000 pictures because I have so many and it just grows every day. So they're not really
yeah.
organized. They're just all there. But yeah, people buy prints from all over the world, and it's always very humbling to know that they feel that greatly about a picture I took. They want to hang it on their wall. So it makes me feel really good.
Well, I would love to go through 1,000 of your photos. Can't get enough of it. Yeah, and some of the chatters do too. Some of our members say that they, lots of Christmas gift ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have a technical question. This is interesting.
Okay.
So this person asked, I've seen you compare Nikon and Fuji cameras and lenses on your website. What other cameras have you owned or used?
It wouldn't be Fuji, it would be Sony.
Sony.
Yeah. So right now, I own both Nikon and Sony, but I've kind of transitioned over to the Sony stuff because there's, like I said earlier, there are a lot of advantages to the mirrorless stuff that Sony offers. And I don't know, I really like their gear. I like the stuff that they do. So right now it's Nikon and Sony, but like when I pack my bag, it's two Sony bodies and usually one Sony lens, and then I'm off for the day with that gear. So
Ah, okay. Next question. How do you determine which camera is best for you? Specifically, how do people wanting to get into photography determine that? And is there a way for newbies to rent a camera to test them?
yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And I would highly suggest renting a camera over buying one. Some of the cameras and the equipment can be very expensive, so it's a big investment. But the really neat thing about how the whole camera ecosystem is designed is you can start small at an entry level position and get really good results and then grow as you grow as a photographer. And if you want to invest more time and money into the gear, you can always upgrade. And that's literally what I did. I started at the very bottom of the rung and kind of understood what I was doing, and then always knew that down the road I could get better gear that would help me get better results. But it's interesting to think about it too, to go backwards. If I were to start today with the gear that I have, I would be lost. So
Ah,
if you jump right in head first and get the most expensive stuff, it's going to give you probably problems. You're better off learning on entry level gear. As far as determining that camera, what that camera is, that's challenging. Cameras are made these days. I mean, there's well-rounded cameras that'll do everything, and then there's some that are made to target fast action like sports and wildlife.
right.
And those fast action cameras usually come with a bigger price tag. But I think the easiest way to get in is with an entry level camera that just does basically everything that you want it to do. And you have quite a bit of choices. You have Canon, you have Sony, you have Nikon, and you have Fuji. Those are really the four. And then just find the one that you're happy with and learn in that ecosystem. That would be my suggestion. But yeah, renting is a great idea because then you don't have to invest everything, a bunch of money. So
Yeah, exactly. And I'm on a student budget, but I needed a camera to do my research to get the details of like the fish that the ospreys were catching. So I'm
yeah,
starting off with one of those bridge cameras.
yeah, definitely,
I
yeah,
think it's a Lumix Z300 or something,
yeah,
which is pretty good. But I
yeah.
can't get the detail of the fish. Like I want to see like the fish eyes and the scales and the adipose fin and
Yeah. The bridge cameras are great because they have a built-in zoom lens, and a lot of the features that you would have in the more professional cameras. And it's a great way to get your feet wet and really understand if you want to stand out there and watch ospreys for 3 hours. Some people, they might not want to do that. So that's a great way to get started. And then again, like I said, once you kind of get better at it, it's very easy to upgrade and just work your way up the ladder to the more professional gear.
I have a few more questions, Mark, if you're okay with time.
I'm great. Yeah, I love it.
Okay, cool. We had a comment with when you were showing the video and you were in the ocean. How do ospreys handle waves when they're bigger, when they're trying to catch fish, trying to avoid the pelicans and fishermen, and then to contend with the waves? Like,
Yeah, they tend to. That's kind of one of the things that I want when I go out with people. I want a big nasty surf because they don't like it. They don't want to go into those waves because it's too much trouble to get out. So when we have big, nasty surf, it pushes them into where the waves aren't big. They're smart enough to avoid it if they can. The fish do too, so they follow the fish. So, but I have seen instances of them diving, talon first into big crashing waves and getting caught and being rolled. And I saw one bird, I saw it happen, and the bird literally kind of licked its wounds and swam like a duck to the shore, and then crawled out and sat up in the sand for about 30 minutes to catch its breath, because it actually, I think, kind of knocked the wind out of it, so to speak. So I've seen that too, but that's a rare occurrence. They tend to avoid the larger waves and tend to come in where it's a calmer, flatter surface. So.
Cool. Okay, so we have a question from Suzanne. What kinds of predation on chicks have you seen, have you witnessed, such as great blue herons taking osprey chicks or other predators?
Personally, I haven't seen any predation on the osprey chicks where I go. There's just too many osprey. They protect themselves really well. But I know of one instance from an osprey cam here in Florida on a lone nest where they got footage of a great horned owl coming in and snatching the chicks in the middle of the night. And then, of course, the adult ospreys left, and then the great horned owl came in and used the nest. And I think that's a somewhat common thing where the nests are more isolated here in Florida. They just happen to have a camera on that one when it happened. So, but me personally, I haven't seen it myself. So.
Got it. Okay, final question. So
yeah.
Ospreys, I love ospreys. As a fisheries biologist and coming from, a fishing family, we've always looked to birds to tell us about, how the fish are doing. When I moved to California from Hawaii, the first time I saw the osprey, I saw them dive in the water, and I was just like so blown away. And at one point, ospreys became more important than fish to me. Don't tell my dad that, but people want to know why is ospreys, your favorite bird? You have so many birds on your website that you feature and showcase. Why are ospreys your favorite?
I think it's just because of the amazing ability that they have, what they do to enter a completely different world, pull a fish out of that world, and then fly away with it, break the surface tension and then fly away with it. And it's not like they're doing it because they like it. They have to survive. And that's very humbling to me. And I don't know, a lot of admiration for these birds. They do a lot of amazing things. And I think from my experience, I've yet to see a bird that does anything as amazing as they do, at least in my eyes. And
in my eyes too. I agree with you.
Yeah. And the neat thing too is, I've often thought to myself, will I ever grow tired of watching them do this? But every time they're out and they're diving, I'm just like, I feel like a little kid again. And it's just so exciting. So I don't think that will ever happen. Every time it's different. I never know what they're going to pull out of the water. So it's an amazing thing. And, I guess it's just their tenacity for survival, So.
I resonate with that strongly. Like, I've watched some YouTube videos, your videos of ospreys dying, and it never, ever gets tired. It's just classic. And they're like one of the only raptors, birds of prey, that actually dive all the way in the water. There's a raptor that does that. And I think the other birds know that too, like bald eagles and pelicans. They know how good they are, how experts they are at fishing. So they wait until they catch the fish and they try to steal it from them.
That's right. Yeah, they let them do all of the work. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. But they are tenacious. They're survivors. They go from one world to the next.
Yeah, and it's an amazing transformation. To see them, maybe 50 feet in the sky, lock onto a bird, compress, those wings come back, and then just come falling down so fast, and like at the last second, throwing their feet out. The nictitating membranes coming down, and boom, they just disappear. It's I don't know. I've often thought to myself the amount of information that's going on for them to be able to do that, and then to deal with the refraction on the level of the water, because they're seeing stuff that's a little bit different than where it really is. That's just a an amazing amount of information. And I think I've thought to myself, there's just no way I could deal with that information. And
too much information. I'm so glad you pointed out, because not only with the water and how the refraction is, engaging where the fish is, but then also dealing with the wind. And then they have to worry about, like, after they catch the fish, how are they getting out of the water? Who's going to be after them? You know, it's just all these.
It's constant.
Yeah. The timing.
Yeah, exactly. So the day that the Osprey goes down the first time, gets a big fish and flies away and gets a meal, I'm always very happy, because I know how much of a struggle it is for them every day. So.
Well, thank you, Mark. Bravo.
Thank you for having me.
Your inspiration. Thank you so much. We're going to be buying your stuff.
Oh, yay. Thanks. I appreciate
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're just going to